About 2 years ago, my then boyfriend and I decided to go on a hike just before sunset. It may sound foolish, but we had done it several times before without any issues. I liked the eeriness of the woods at night, but my boyfriend did not. We had to push through very tall plants and bushes, and we were in the middle of nowhere. About a mile into the hike, we stumbled upon some abandoned structures and took a break. I'm not sure what my boyfriend said to prompt me, but as a joke I whistled and said, "See? Nothing whistled back. We're alone." Within a few seconds, we heard a whistle. It was some distance from us, but still too near for our comfort. We immediately ran in the opposite direction of the whistle and did not look back. After running as far as we could, we realized we were lost. We wandered around for about 10 minutes before we discovered some train tracks that led back into town, about a mile or two away. At this point, we were walking since we were exhausted and felt safer. However, we were mistaken to believe we were safe. We reached a point where we could see the lights from the town, maybe a quarter to half a mile away. Down the tracks a little way, we saw the faint outline of what appeared to be a deer coming out of the right side of the woods. It stopped in the middle of the tracks and just stood there. I attempted to shine my flashlight on it, but as soon as I lifted my light, it fled. I say fled because Rand would not accurately describe how it moved. The best way I can describe it is that it appeared to have 4 broken legs, and its body was very low to the ground, yet it had unbelievable speed. It almost looked like a bent and twisted monster out of a horror movie. I shone my light into the woods to the left of us, as that's where the thing had run, and when I did, I saw 2 glowing eyes that appeared to be at least 10 feet in the air. We ran until we reached town. This happened about 2 years ago, and I've tried to come up with logical explanations for what I saw that night, but I can never find one. I refused to believe what I had seen for a long time, but I know what I saw. I know I'm not crazy because somebody else witnessed the same thing that I did. My boyfriend never mentioned it again and refused to discuss it whenever I brought it up. I never went hiking at night after that day. In mid-November 2021, 10 friends and I went camping near Petite Lake in the Sawtooth National Forest. We divided ourselves into 2 groups, with 4 people in 2 tents and 1 person in a car. My buddy and I set up our hammocks on the outskirts of the camp. Around 1 a.m., I woke up to my hammock mate panting and yelling my name. He was paralyzed with fear, having had an extremely vivid dream about a tall, slender black figure trying to break into his car. In the dream, he had seen the figure decapitate me and the rest of our friends, with our heads placed on sticks throughout the camp. He claimed that he had woken up to the figure near the car and saw our heads on sticks around the camp. He clicked the car alarm button, causing the figure to run circles around the car before dashing off quickly into the woods. I was very uneasy, but tried to calm him down, assuring him that it was just a bad dream. However, we heard our friend in the tent screaming, "No, no, don't take me," which woke up most of the camp. We were all freaked out, especially since we were in our hammocks and felt very vulnerable. We eventually moved into the same tent and had a conversation about what was happening. One of our friends in the car also claimed to have seen the black figure running around the car and heard scratching on the window and pulling on the door. The next morning we discussed what had happened, and 6 of us reported similar experiences. We speculated that it could have been some kind of being giving us nightmares, like a skinwalker, but of course we didn't have any evidence. We later found out that some friends who had stayed at the same site 6 months earlier had also experienced weird occurrences at night, such as feeling watched or sensing a being walking around their tent. "4 days ago, I attended a bonfire with a few of my coworkers. It wasn't a big event, only about 7 people showed up. I knew everyone there, and for the first hour, it was a lot of fun. The place was located in the woods. Phone reception was poor. We were about a mile away from civilization, so getting help would have been quite difficult in case of an emergency. I live in Utah, so there's not much traffic around where I live, so there would be few cars passing by. There was one person I did not know, but I assumed he was one of my coworkers' friends, so I didn't think much of it. He was a tall, skinny white guy with black hair and blue eyes. I don't want to be judgmental, but he wasn't very attractive. He was very distant, barely talked, kept to himself, which I didn't find odd at first. As the evening wore on, I noticed that he would randomly stare at people. Now that made me feel uneasy. Before asking anyone about him, I began to observe him. His movements were odd, but I couldn't explain how. He walked strangely and moved his head and neck in a weird way. This made me so paranoid that I finally asked my coworkers if they knew him. Each person said no. They all assumed he was someone else's friend. This was a red flag for me. I felt like we needed to leave immediately. I told everyone what I observed, and we all agreed to leave and go to another coworker's house. We packed up our things and loaded them into the car, pretending we were done for the night. The strange guy didn't get into any car. He just stood near the woods and waved goodbye. As we drove off, I was in the car with my colleague, and when we looked back, the guy was gone in an instant. That wasn't the only scary thing that happened. My car window was broken. So I didn't have it up. I could hear everything outside. On the way to my place, I heard something that sounded like someone screaming. And one time, I swear I heard someone calling my name. This made me extremely scared, and instead of joking around, my friend and I were terrified. We kept hearing noises like whines, a dog barking, a horse, someone screaming, people calling my name, wolves howling. I had a feeling that something was trying to lure me into the woods by making these noises. Fortunately, it didn't work, and none of my friends went into the woods. As we left the gravel road and moved onto the main road, we looked back into the woods. I was behind all the other cars, so I had a clear view of something running way faster than any human should run. It was coming towards us. Tall, skinny, pale. At that point, I drove past all the other cars and rushed to get out of there. My friend in the passenger seat asked what was wrong, but I was so terrified I could not speak. I almost drove into the woods at one point, but I snapped out of it when one of my friends called and asked what was going on. I lied to him and said everything was fine, but he didn't believe me and kept pushing. I kept lying. Eventually he gave up and told me he would see me to my house. This experience left me terrified to go near any woods, and even scared to leave my house at times. I believe that if my instincts had not told me to leave, someone at that bonfire would have died.